Hello, I'm Karen Flores, Agent Relationship Manager at ICEF based in Brazil. Impulso for the Internationalization of the Americas is an initiative led by various organizations, including ICEF, Flywire, and Julius, that work in the Latin America market and are specialized in different parts of the international students' journey. Our mission is to help the growth of Latin America educators in their internationalization process, sharing knowledge and experience. With the help of BELTA, the Brazilian Language Travel Association, we will show some successful cases. BELTA has a department specialized in organizing the foreign student experience in Brazil and consolidating the country as a global educational destination. Studying in Brazil is made of exchange agencies and educational institutions focused on teaching Portuguese with different programs like language courses, elementary and high school education, academic subjects, unpaid internship, voluntary work, among others, aimed at those who come to study in Brazil. Our presenters are Daniel Amgarten, the co-founder and CEO of Campus B, an international education organization based in Brazil, Susana Florici, the owner of Torre de Babel Idiomas and Cultura, and Antonio Bacelar, the founder and director of Via Mundo Intercambio and director of operations for BELTA.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Daniel Amgarten. It's a pleasure to be here sharing a bit my experiences about studying in Brazil. So I run an organization called Campus B. We are specialized in short-term programs especially for US based institutions, higher education institutions to come to Brazil and to Latin America in general. So before I start, I want to give you some important notes. So as I said, I work with higher education and short-term mobility. So most of our programs, they are between 1 and 10 weeks, 1 and 10 week long. 85% of the students we work with come from US-based institutions. And also most of our programs are customized. So a university in the United States asks us to design a program in many different fields, business, agriculture, sustainability, and we design this program for them. So having said that, when we think about studying in Brazil, a lot of people have that in mind. So why studying in Brazil? If you are an American student, why you want to come to Brazil to study? So if we get, for example, the number of scientific production per capita, we see that the US has a number more than 4 times bigger than Brazil. So there is a bigger scientific production in the United States than Brazil. If we get the number of universities in the top 500 of the world, according to the Times Higher Education ranking for this year, 2022, we have 109 universities listed in the United States and only 2 in Brazil. So you are wondering why someone would come here to study. And it's funny because we were in the news maybe like 4 or 5 years ago in a business magazine saying that a company is making money by bringing Americans to study Brazil. And the comments were like, wow, what will these people come here to learn about? You know, why they don't stay there? And so it was a bit weird to read that because a lot of people don't see Brazil as a destination for study and more as a country that sends students abroad. So there is what we say in Brazil, complexo de vira-lata, which would be something like stray dog complex. So we do think in Brazil a lot of time that we are worse, that other countries are better and all of that. And what I have to show you, or what I have to explain here, is that first we have to differentiate studying and learning. So there is a quote that I like that says, I hate studying, but I love learning. So there are two different things. And how can we describe learning? So learning is a process that leads to change, which occurs as a result of experience and increases the potential for improved performance and future learning. So the change in the learner may happen at the level of knowledge, attitude, or behavior. As a result of learning, learners come to see concepts, ideas, and or the world differently. So what shows here is that different is better than better. So the further you are of your comfort zone, the more you can learn. So imagine for US citizen that go to the UK to study. So UK is excellent, great country. If we think of scientific production and number of top universities, they are very well ranked. But it seems to me that culturally speaking, Brazil would be much more different than United States as if we compare to the UK. So the thing is not about thinking of a scale of better and worse. I think the beautiful of going abroad to study is to learn about the different, is to understanding what's different and to apply that to your reality. So this, just to illustrate a bit our work, this is a group from the University of Illinois that came to Brazil on a program called Technology and Management. So they were partnering with Brazilian students, and they had 8 weeks to come up with solutions for Brazilian companies. So in this picture, they were visiting Cívico, which is a co-working space accelerator for social business. So they really were able to open their mind and learn how social business work here. What's the difference of social impact business in Brazil and the United States? And you learn from these differences, from these different perspectives. So studying abroad opens your mind to learn more about the world. And one thing that's very curious is that when you are abroad, you also learn a lot about your country and your reality. So I've studied abroad, have lived abroad for a while, and I think the time that I learned more about Brazil and about myself was when I was in another country, because you can see it from a different perspective. So this is the main message I would like to leave here. So come to Brazil to study because we are different and you learn from differences. I have here with me, this is Jared Waters. So Jared is also working for Campus B, and he came the first time to Brazil in 2018 on an internship program that we had. And I thought it would be interesting to hear from him his perspectives of being here and I mean, what he learned about living here. Yeah. So Jared, it's with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hi, everyone. So as Daniel mentioned, my name is Jared Waters. I am originally from Akron, Ohio in the US. And as Daniel mentioned, I had the opportunity while I was an undergrad to come to Brazil. I actually got to intern here and I got to study abroad here as well. And it really stemmed from an early interest that I had in learning more about Latin America. And it's grown into something so much bigger than that since then. I think that as Daniel mentioned, when I came to Brazil, what I wasn't expecting to find was how much I started to get kind of an outsider looking in perspective on the US. I started to see a lot of different practices, a lot of different customs, a lot of different traditions, or just day-to-day activities that were different from the reality that I had lived growing up and that I didn't even realize could be different. A lot of times people, I think, refer to that as your kind of unknown knowns, sort of the assumptions that you have that you don't even realize you're taking for granted. And so it gave me this really interesting kind of clear perspective on myself and sort of what environment I grew up in. And it was just a really enriching experience to start to think through those. It just makes you kind of fall down the rabbit hole thinking through all of those different assumptions. And it kind of becomes intoxicating at a point. I kept coming back to Brazil. I kept wanting to come back more. And now I'm actually currently living here and working with Campus B, which is funny speaking about the kind of stray dog complex, because for me, this is really a dream come true. This is something that I've been working towards for the past several years now. And there were several times that I did not think that it was going to work out. And constantly while I'm here in Brazil talking to different Brazilians, I get those comments. Why Brazil? Why don't you go back? Can we swap passports? Why here? And the thing is I feel truly that every day I get to come to work really excited and really grateful for where I am, because I know that I've worked really hard to get here, and that every day that I'm here, there's something completely different that I'm learning that I never would have gotten a chance to learn in the US. So for as much as people may think it seems like this outlandish, wild idea, for me, it really has been so enriching. And like I said, it feels like a dream come true. So I would definitely recommend for everyone who's interested to give Brazil a chance, because I do not think you will regret it.
Wow, thank you, Janet. So this is what we want to share with you. So obrigado, thank you, and bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Susana Florice. And first of all, I'd like to thank you, the organization of this event, for having given me the opportunity to talk about what I like to do best. I will start sharing my screen. Okay, here I am. So that is to work with the economic power of the Portuguese language, as it is spoken in the 9 countries where it is the official language, but mainly in Brazil, and even more specifically in the corporate world. I'm Susana Florice, as I said, and I am the owner of Torre de Babel, Idiomas and Culturas, as you can see in your screens. Okay, so in this brief presentation, I will focus mainly on the business opportunities available to agents, institutes, and all other businesses involved with offering the experience of living the Portuguese language in Brazil. To make sure we all understand what we are talking about, let me clarify the meaning of 3 important definitions that you see on the screen, which are Portuguese as a foreign language, Portuguese as a second language, and Portuguese as a heritage language. Even though there are several other definitions for the teaching of Portuguese in these contexts, I'd like to concentrate all of them in these 3 specific ones. Portuguese as a foreign language, as well as any other language, is considered the activity of teaching and learning the language in a foreign country. Portuguese as a second language for any other language is the language taught and learned in one of the countries where it is spoken. And Portuguese as a heritage language is the language we acquire when it is the language of our parents, of our grandparents, or the like. And we do have a number of business opportunities in all of these segments. I have tried to list here some points I'd like to show to you and to comment. It comes without saying that the pandemic has brought about a number of opportunities for distant learning worldwide. My company, as I said, Torre de Babel, Idiomas e Culturas, located in São Paulo, Brazil, has been in the market for over 37 years now, dealing basically with multinational companies. Before 2019, we tried over and over again with no success to have expatriates study Portuguese before they moved to Brazil. It took COVID to help HR departments to understand the logic and need to move to distant learning. Now, when expatriates arrive in Brazil, they usually have had some Portuguese classes and do not need to start learning the language from scratch. I just want to point out an important characteristic of courses offered to this specific market, and that is that 99% of classes are held on a one-to-one basis. There is not much business for group classes in the corporate world. Today, classes are held either online or in the students' offices, hotels. Those are the most common venues, hotels, students' offices, and maybe sometimes at home. I would strongly suggest that agencies working with exchange or study programs look for partners who have specialized and have a history in the teaching of Portuguese itself, as many institutes would wrongly consider that any Brazilian can teach the language, or even worse, that a teacher of any other language, such as English or French, for example, German, Italian, will know how to teach Portuguese. It is not the case. It is important to have institutes who professionally choose prepared instructors and teachers to teach Portuguese, specifically Portuguese. Another window of opportunities is to sell courses that prepare for the CELPE-BRAS exam, which is the official proficiency examination when it comes to Brazilian Portuguese. It is also a requirement for any foreigner who wants to get the Brazilian citizenship, that they have to pass the CELPE-BRAS exam. They need a CELPE-BRAS proficiency examination certificate. Another issue that is important, and I have put it in red, is that when we teach a language, we also cover, of course, the culture of the country or the countries where it is spoken. So there is opportunity here as well for agencies, tourism agencies, study agencies, etc. PACs or programs that mix language and culture. One last point to be covered is the opportunity that new entrants in the corporate world offer. There are several young adults who have come to understand that learning a, let's say, different language will come as a plus to their CVs. This now is a proof of how markets change constantly. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the term bleisure, and it is important that we read what I have got from the Fortune magazine, which is Bleisure Pandemic World China, which says, the portmanteau bleisure is exactly what it sounds like, a merging of business and leisure travel. Imagine being sent to attend a 2-day conference in Miami and then enjoying a partly subsidized 2-week beachside stay before attending another business meeting. So imagine coming to Brasilia on business, and then your company offers you a 2-day or 3-day stay in Fernando de Noronha, for example. So bleisure is important, and for those who are not familiar with this term, it is a proof that the world changes constantly. And I think here you have a number of opportunities for of programs to be sold to visit Brazil in the corporate world. As you know, São Paulo is the main entrance for business tourism in Brazil, for example, because most professionals who come to Brazil through São Paulo, they will, over the weekend, on a holiday, take a week off and visit some other parts of the country. I have also added this slide to cover another more or less new opportunity. For a number of reasons, in the past few years, some Brazilian expatriates have been coming back to their head offices in Brazil. The children of these Brazilians either do not speak Portuguese or do speak the language, but need help to adapt to the Brazilian school system. So once again, it is important that to explain about these specific courses, which are short-term courses, because as you know, children are sponges, so they learn very fast, and they adapt very fast usually to school. So it's basically courses to adapt to the student, for adaptation, so they are short-term courses. And it's different when it comes to children and teens. Sometimes with teens, you need little more time, some more time to help them adapt to the new schools. It is very important that you choose language institutes who know how to choose teaching materials and who have a good choice of teachers to teach children and teens and have experience teaching children and teens, teaching Portuguese as a heritage language to children and teens. I was also asked to cover just a little of an initiative I'm very proud of, and that is what Torre de Babel de Idiomas e Culturas does with the help of 40 volunteers. We have been helping refugees from several different countries, Venezuela, Bolivia, some of the African countries, Afghanistan, Syria. We have been helping them learn Portuguese so that they can improve their employability, socialization, and self-esteem. This is not business. This is a volunteer program that we have, and I was asked to mention this in this event. I have also added a reminder that I always try to show, that is that we have not, as I have mentioned before, we have not as yet discovered and bet high enough on the economic power of the Portuguese language. Differently from what agencies and institutes who deal with English have learned it in the past and have been using very well. We do not yet, we don't understand as yet the economic power of the Portuguese language, and therefore we don't work enough with the Portuguese language as an economic power. I also wanted to show you this slide, which I call the incredible power of a language in numbers. It's not new data, but I brought this because I wanted to call your attention to some specific information we lack about Brazil, not about Portugal. Portugal does a very good job when it comes to survey or researches, but I think there is an opportunity here to study and invest on surveys and researches that could bring agencies, institutes, and universities more data on how to start and offer new programs in this ever-changing world of tourism, study, leisure, and corporate world. This is my contact. Please feel free to reach me in case you'd like to know more about Portuguese as a foreign language, or if you'd like us to share more of our experiences and expertise with you. Please feel free. I like very much to share what we know. So again, Susana at torredebabel.com.br. Susana is spelled S-U-S-A-N-N-A. I was born in Italy, so this is why my name is written as it is here on this slide. Thank you again, and the best of luck to this event.
Hi, my name is Antonio. I'm the director of Via Mundo, an agency located in São Luís, northeastern Brazil. We are a very cultural and historical city. I have been working with our inbound programs, with exchange programs out of Brazil and inbound for over 23 years now. So far, we have received students from Scandinavia, from Germany, South America, North America, Asia, and Africa, and even Australia. Our students usually come to Brazil for an academic high school program or college program or work and travel program, even language and vacation programs. Most of our students come to Brazil because they get an interest for our culture, for our way of life. They want to experience something completely different. Most of the students, when they come to Brazil, after they go through a culture shock, they feel welcomed, they feel part of our culture. Maybe the Brazilian culture is open to these possibilities. We are open to new people, to different nationalities and different ways of life. We have been melting for so many years, welcoming people for so many years, for hundreds of years. which for us, it makes it easier somehow in receiving people from countries, such different countries as Finland, Slovakia, and our neighbor countries such as Argentina and Ecuador. We have an interesting point about our program is that the students come not only for the academics, but mainly to experience the Brazilian people. Interesting things about Brazil is that we are indeed a melting pot. Brazilians, they have been blending Africans, Native Americans, Europeans, Asian for so many years. Most of the Brazilian people, we have at least 3 continents inside. This makes us a true melting pot unique people. This is one of the points that our students, they become interested about. Somebody has a background of Lebanese background, mixed with Portuguese, mixed with German, mixed with indigenous, and sometimes African. Maybe that makes us a very tolerant people. One of the points that make also Brazil an interesting spot for an exchange students is the nature and the size of the country. Our students, when they do come here, they not only go into a high school program, they live with their host families and friends, a very intense social life. They go into sports, they go into trips, they go into parties. Brazil, we are very festive people. They do go into our folklore. For many tourists, they think that Brazil is an everlasting party. No, actually, the folklore, it's a very interesting part of our culture. It's in our schools, it's in our families, it's in our way of life. So exchange students, when they do come here, they feel like Brazilians have like a joy for life, joie de vivre, which actually brings them more into what is South America, what is Latin America, what is Brazil. Living in the tropics is also something which is very interesting for students coming from different cultures and different countries. They have to adapt the way of eating, the way of dressing, shower, bathing. Everything is different in our culture. But it is very important that programs abroad or agencies abroad do trust Brazilian agencies and Brazilian programs. You have to pick up people who is qualified to send you the right information to prepare your students, to prepare the parents of these students to be exchange students in Brazil. The social differences, the cultural differences, the weather makes it a challenge. Although we are very welcoming people, but it is a big challenge for students coming from these countries and cultures to us. So the importance of the agent, it's key to the success of the experience. Not only we can prepare our partners abroad, we can help our partners abroad promote it, but we can also give the necessary support when the students come here, which is really important, to give the students support on a daily basis. Give them orientation about our educational systems, our host families, how can they make friends, where can they get support if they do have any kind of problem or issues. It's very, very, very important that you do choose the right agents with whom you can work Brazil with. I would say that the Brazilian product, the Brazilian program, it is an essential program to work with the agents and not working independently. Because most of the people who come as exchange students to Brazil, they most of the time need a support or a preparation in order to have a very positive experience. One of the main questions that we have from the agents abroad about Brazil is, parents are concerned about safety in our country. In Brazil, safety is a matter of the social differences. That's why, as I said before, you have to choose the right agencies, because we do prepare our students, we give orientation for them, and we also inform them. The more Brazilian they act, the more they follow the host family's guidelines, the host school guidelines, and agents' orientations. The students do have a fantastic time in Brazil. The cases of violence are really rare, not to say non-existent in most of the time. So just dress properly. Follow the guidelines of your family, follow the orientations of your agency, and you do have a rich culture and safe experience in Brazil. It's very interesting for us to see one of the cases we have a student coming from Scandinavia, coming from Finland. She was an exchange student in Brazil. Brazil, we are very huggy people, we are very touchy people. It is very common for us, to kiss the cheeks when we meet people for the first time. If you come from Finland, you don't touch, you don't kiss, you keep a distance when you meet someone for the first time. This student from Finland came here. She had a huge culture shock. But with time, she started learning the language, learning the ways, and she became a true Brazilian exchange student. By the time she went back to Finland, she was maybe one of the persons who kissed and hugged more everyone than anyone have ever seen. And she even took part in one of our folklorical groups. The way I'm dressed now, I'm dressed from the culture and from the folklore of Maranhão, my state, which is a state which gets together the indigenous people, the African influence, the Portuguese influence, as well as the French and the Dutch. And we do become this very exotic kind of people, which is ready with our arms opened to receive students from all over the globe.
I want to thank our three great presenters and all our audience. We wish that we have inspired all of you to help Latin America to also become a strong and popular inbound destination for education of all kinds. See you on the next event. Thank you and obrigada.